There's a name tag on my hospital bed. Eleanor Mae Thompson, 109 years old. Most mornings I look at that number and think about all the people who didn't make it this far. My husband, my friends, my sister, they're all gone. And I'm still here. Not because I'm special, not because I did something they didn't, but because life chose me to stay a little longer. And I decided that if I'm still here, I better make it count. My name is Eleanor, and I'm going to tell you how I survived 40 years alone without losing myself. This is my story, but it's also a roadmap for you. You know, most people are scared of loneliness, scared of losing a spouse, scared of losing friends, scared of getting old. I was scared too. Up until I was 69 years old, I was scared. Then my husband William died, and the thing I was scared of became real. I'll never forget that morning. It was a Tuesday, May, a sunny day. William had gone downstairs for breakfast. I'd gotten in the shower. 10 minutes later, I came downstairs and found him at the kitchen table, head down, eyes closed. He looked peaceful, like he was sleeping, but he wasn't sleeping. I put my hand on his shoulder. William, I said. He didn't answer. I touched his face. It was cold. I called the ambulance, but it was too late. The doctor said it was a heart attack. Fast, no pain. 1 minute he was there, the next minute he was gone. People think it's comforting when they say things like that. He didn't suffer, they say. It was quick, they say. But it's not comforting because you don't get to say goodbye. You can't prepare. 1 minute you have a life, the next minute everything's gone. William and I had been married for 47 years. 47 years. We met when I just finished high school. I was 20. He was 22. We met at a dance. He was shy, kind, reliable. Exactly the kind of man my father wanted for me. 2 years later, we got married. Small wedding at the church. 100 guests. Simple but beautiful. We built our life together. Bought a house, had children. Nancy was born when I was 25. Then Robert came. Then Susan. 3 kids, a full house, noisy mornings, exhausting evenings. But we were happy. William worked at the factory. I stayed home, took care of the kids. That's how it was back then. Men worked, women stayed home. We didn't question it. That's just how we lived. The kids grew up, left home. Nancy went first, college, then she got married. Then Robert left, then Susan. And suddenly the house was empty. Just William and me. We were in our 50s. And for the first time, it was just the two of us. No kids, no responsibilities. Some couples rediscover each other during this time. Travel, pick up hobbies. We slowly got used to each other. Breakfast together every morning. Dinner together every evening. Watching TV, reading books. A simple life, but it was peaceful. When William retired, I was 65. We started spending more time together. Worked in the garden, visited the grandkids, spent time with friends. Those years were good. Looking back, I think they were our best years because we could give each other time. No rush, no stress, just togetherness. But William died at 69, and that togetherness ended. The week of the funeral, the house was full of people. The kids came, the grandkids came, William's brothers came, neighbors came. They brought food, sat down, talked. Be strong, Eleanor, they said. We're here for you, they said. You're not alone, they said. But 2 weeks later, everyone left, went back to their own lives. Nancy went back to her own state. Robert went back to work. Susan went back to her family. Everyone left. And I was left alone in that big house. The first night was the worst. The silence in the house, it was almost physical, heavy, suffocating. William used to snore. For 47 years, I heard that sound every night. Sometimes it bothered me. Turn over, William, I say. That night, I didn't hear it, and I realized I'd never hear it again. I got into bed. William's side was empty. His pillow was cold. The sheets were smooth. Nobody had been there. Nobody would be there. I cried. I cried for a long time because I understood half my life was gone and it wasn't coming back. The next morning I got up, washed my face, combed my hair, got dressed, made breakfast, mechanically without feeling. I just did it because it needed to be done. The first month went like that every day. Get up, wash, dress, eat, sleep, repeat. I wasn't feeling, I was just moving. My friends visited. My closest friend Margaret came every day for the first 2 weeks, brought coffee, sat down, talked. Sometimes she didn't even talk, just sat. Those days kept me going. Margaret would say, Eleanor, you need to talk. Don't keep it inside, she'd say. I talk about William. Tell her how we met. Our first date, our wedding, the kids, everything. Margaret would listen, wouldn't judge, just listen. She was a real friend. In the second month, the visits decreased. Margaret started coming twice a week. Other friends once a week. Then every 2 weeks. Then once a month. It normalized. Everyone went back to their own lives. And I started being alone in that house. At first, I wasn't scared. I'm not talking about loneliness. Physically, I was alone, but I didn't feel lonely because there were still things to do. House cleaning, shopping, gardening, my days were full. But slowly I started to notice I wasn't talking to anyone for hours. I'd wake up in the morning, nobody to say good morning to. I'd make breakfast, nobody across from me. I'd watch TV, nobody to comment to. The silence grew slowly. First hours, then days. Sometimes 3 or 4 days would pass without talking to anyone. And I started talking to myself. I didn't even realize it at first. Making coffee, I say, Eleanor, don't add sugar. Cooking, I say, turn down the heat. Be careful, I say, just to hear sound, a human voice, even if it was my own. Then I noticed my voice sounded strange, foreign, because I wasn't using it for days. My body was forgetting how to produce it. Every morning I started looking in the mirror. Good morning, Eleanor, I say, out loud, just to make sure the voice was still there. When I turned 70, Margaret died. Cancer. It came fast. She was gone within 6 months. Margaret was my closest friend. 40 years of friendship. We had lunch every Wednesday. For 40 years, every Wednesday. We never missed it. When she died, I lost those Wednesdays. Nothing left to look forward to. Just empty Wednesdays. When I was 72, my sister Rose died. Cancer too. It took a long time. It was painful. I visited her in the hospital every day, held her hand, talked, reminded her of memories. I was there until her last breath. After her funeral, I went home, opened my phone book, looked at the names. Half of them were crossed out, dead, all dead. Mom was gone. Dad was gone. William was gone. Margaret was gone. Rose was gone. Nobody left to call. That night I sat down in the living room in the silence, and I thought, who am I now? Who is Eleanor? For 47 years I was William's wife. For 40 years I was Margaret's friend. For 60 years I was Rose's sister. But now I was just Eleanor. But who was Eleanor? When I was 75, I noticed something. When I looked in the mirror, my face was expressionless, blank, because I wasn't smiling at anyone, wasn't frowning for anyone, wasn't looking surprised at anyone. My face had forgotten how to react. One day I tested myself, looked in the mirror, tried to smile, My mouth moved, but it looked strange, artificial, fake, like a muscle I hadn't used in years. When I was 78, my daughter Nancy called. "Mom, I want to see you," she said. They came. Nancy, her husband, the grandkids. They stayed 2 hours. They talked. I listened. They talked about work, about school, about friends. I asked questions, listened, smiled. But we were like strangers. We were polite, nice, but distant. When they left, Nancy said, "I'll come more often, Mom." But she didn't. 3 months later, she called again. "I'm so busy, Mom," she said. "Kids, work, house, you understand, right?" I understood. Of course I understood. Young people were busy. They had lives. And I was just an old mother, someone to be visited out of duty. When I was 80, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let loneliness beat me. But how? How wasn't I going to let it beat me? The first thing I did was create a routine. Every morning I woke up at 7:30, made my bed, took a shower, got dressed, made breakfast every day, even if I was sick, whether I wanted to or not. Because I learned routine is the foundation of mental health. It gives you structure, gives you purpose, gives you a reason to start the day. Second, I started going outside every day without fail. Even if it was raining, even if it was just for 10 minutes, I go to the store, go to the park, go to the library, didn't matter where. I just got out of the house. Because if you stay inside, you stay inside your head too. You disconnect from the world. And disconnecting is dangerous. Third, I started talking to people. Small conversations. I say to the cashier, "Nice weather today." To the neighbor, "Your garden looks beautiful." To the mailman, "Thank you." They weren't deep conversations, but they were connection, human connection. And that connection kept me alive. Fourth, I started keeping my mind active. I did puzzles, crosswords, Sudoku. I read books every day, listened to the radio, news, music, didn't matter what. Because the mind is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it gets weak, it withers. And I didn't want it to wither. Fifth, and maybe most important, I forgave myself. I stopped blaming myself for being alone. William dying wasn't my fault. Friends dying wasn't my fault. Getting old wasn't my fault. That's just how life was. And I couldn't control life, but I could control my response. Forgiveness was the key to survival. Forgiving yourself, forgiving others, forgiving life. When I was 85, I fell at home in the bathroom, broke my hip. I lay on the floor for hours, couldn't move. I was in pain. I tried to reach the phone. Finally, I did. Called the ambulance. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks, had surgery, got physical therapy. The doctor said, "You can't take care of yourself anymore, Mrs. Thompson. You need help," they said. "You should consider a care facility," they said. My daughter Nancy came. We talked. "Mom, the doctors are right," she said. "You can't live alone anymore," she said. "You need to move to a care home," she said. I was scared. A care home was the last stop. People who went in didn't come out. That's where you went to wait to die. But I had no choice. I couldn't go home. Couldn't do the stairs. Couldn't live alone. When I was 86, I moved here to this care facility. A small room, a hospital bed, a closet, a chair. From the window, I could see the parking lot. The first day I cried. I cried for a long time because I thought my life is over. This is the last stop. I'm gonna die here. But I was wrong. The first week was terrible. Everything was foreign. Sounds, smells, people, nurses coming and going, doctors checking in. I saw the other residents. Most were very old. Some had dementia. Some were in wheelchairs. And I thought, is this me? Am I like them? But in the second week, something changed. A nurse came, like always, took my blood pressure, checked my pulse. "How are you, Mrs. Thompson?" she said. Normally I say I'm fine, but that day I did something different. "My name is Eleanor," I said. "Don't call me Mrs. Thompson, call me Eleanor." "And what's your name?" The nurse was surprised. "Janet," she said. "My name is Janet." "Nice to meet you, Janet," I said. "How are you today?" Janet smiled. "I'm good, Eleanor. Thank you for asking." In that moment, I understood something. Janet wasn't just a nurse. She was a person. She had her own life, her own stories. In the following days, I started talking to Janet. Small conversations. "How was your weekend?" I'd ask. "How's your family?" Janet would tell me. She'd talk about her kids, about her husband, and I listened, really listened. And we started forming a bond, not just nurse, patient, human. I did the same thing with the other nurses, with the doctors, even with the cleaning staff, because I understood making connections was up to me. I couldn't wait for them to come. I had to reach out. There were other residents here. Most had dementia, but some didn't. I started getting to know them. There was one woman, Dorothy. She was 92, lost her husband 5 years ago. I started talking to her, listened to her stories. She told me about her youth, about the war, about her children, and I realized everyone had a story, a valuable story, and listening to those stories kept me alive. I look out the window at the parking lot every day, people coming and going, visiting their families, bringing flowers, smiling, hugging, life happening. I used to get sad. My life is over, I say. I'm trapped here, I say. But then I changed my perspective. Life goes on, I said. People love each other. How beautiful. Because I learned life continuing isn't painful, it's beautiful. Because life is valuable. And it continuing, that's hope. There's a red call button next to my bed. Says press for help. For 70 years I couldn't ask for help. I thought it was weakness, but now I press it when I need to, because I understood asking for help takes strength. It's not weakness, it's strength. My daughter Nancy comes sometimes, once a month maybe, sometimes every 2 months. She's busy. She has a life. I understand. I used to get angry. She forgot me, I say. She doesn't care anymore, I say. But then I changed. Now I call her. I pick up the phone. "How are you, Nancy?" I say. "How are the grandkids?" I say. Because I understood relationships are two-way. I can't just wait. I have to make an effort too. The grandkids rarely come. They don't really know me. That's normal. I'm their grandmother's mother, pretty distant. But when they come, I talk. I ask questions. "What are you learning in school?" I say. "What's your favorite subject?" I say. I show interest because I learned if you want connection, you have to reach out. Let me tell you something. I made it to 109 years old. I lived alone for 40 years. I've been in this room for 4 years and I didn't go insane. How? First, routine. Same thing every day. Get up, wash, dress, breakfast, structure gives security. Second, connection. Talk to people, even if it's small. Connection is a lifeline. Third, mental activity. Read, listen, think. If you don't use your mind, it dies. Fourth, forgiveness. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Anger is heavy. Fifth, purpose. Find a reason, even if it's "I'm going to see the sun today." Purpose keeps you going. Sixth, gratitude. Be grateful every day, even if it's "I'm not in pain." Gratitude gives perspective. Seventh, acceptance. Accept what you can't change. You're old. You're in a hospital bed. Okay, now what are you going to do? Acceptance gives power. Eighth, Hope. Tomorrow might be better. Maybe it won't be, but maybe it will. Hope keeps you alive. Ninth, asking for help. You can't do it alone. Ask, accept that strength. 10th, befriend yourself. In the end, you're left with yourself. Make peace with yourself. My name is Eleanor Mae Thompson. I'm 109 years old. I've been in this room for 4 years. 40 years ago, my husband died. I lived alone for 40 years, and I survived. I didn't just survive. I lived. I lived mentally because I learned. Loneliness is a situation. Loneliness is a feeling. You might not be able to change the situation, but you can change the feeling. I changed it when I was 80 and now I'm 109. 29 years of peace. I look out my window, parking lot, people, cars, life, and I smile because I understood my life is different, but it's still valuable, still meaningful. I look at the name tag, Eleanor Mae Thompson, 109 years old, and I'm proud, not because I lived, because of how I lived. I fell, I got up, I lost, I kept going. I was alone. I didn't give up. Let me tell you something to young people. One day you might be alone. Everyone might leave, and then you'll be left with yourself. Prepare now. Know yourself. Love yourself. Befriend yourself. Because in the end, we're all alone. But being alone doesn't have to mean loneliness. Loneliness is a feeling, and feelings change. I changed mine. You can change yours too. I'm 109 years old. I'm in a hospital bed, but I'm happy because I'm at peace with myself, with my past, with my present. And if I could do it, you can do it too. Life can be long, it can be hard, but it can be beautiful too. The choice is yours. I chose for 109 years. Every day, you choose to.